Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Kelly Bailey, and I am a Social Emotional Learning Specialist for the Maine Department of Education. And today I've put together an offering for you to utilize with your districts or with your teams to discuss your own emotional well-being. And on behalf of the Maine Department of Education, I'd just like to convey to you, our commissioners, great gratitude for your hard work, your resilience, your resolve, and for showing up every single day to do the hard work and the big work of remote learning. And we understand and appreciate that this was a significant ask, and the fact that you were able to just do this and rise above the adversities and despite all of the challenges of uncertainty has just been amazing to be part of and to support. And so we thank you. As districts are coming to a close, it is our hope and desire that you will have an opportunity to reset, reframe, and refocus and get some much needed rest so that you will be ready to roll it out again in the fall, whichever way that might look. So today, what I've done is put together a slideshow for you, and really to be looking at how we can do that, how we can recover and get back to that baseline of being okay, and also just to have some practices and strategies in place moving forward so that we can have the resilience that we need to, and the resilience you need to get back to the work of educating your kiddos. So I'm going to share my screen with you and get this up and going. So starting the slideshow, I'm still learning all about this myself from the beginning. Here we are. So this is emotional wellness for Maine educators. Again, we're going to be looking at different practices and strategies for you just to get back to that baseline. A lot of us have been thrust into a remote learning platform without any preparation at all, and rising to the challenge beautifully. We know that for some of us this was more difficult than for others, and there were varied levels of support, and just wanting you to know that it doesn't go unnoticed by our commissioner and the entire Department of Education. Thank you for letting us serve you and help you with any and all of your needs. This video that I have here, whoops, pretty much says it all. If I can get it to play for us. Nope. This is my, oh, here we go. Sorry about that. See, remote. Going to be peaceful, embody that mindfulness practices that I'm going to talk to you about later. Okay, so enjoy this.
Eyes up, hearts up, mind sharp, compassion on full blast. Okay, let's go.
More than 1,500 K-12 schools across the country plan to shut down.
We're now at a point where the appropriate path is to close schools.
I'm going to try my best not to get emotional during all this, but our district is going to be closed for the next 6 weeks.
In case someone is watching this video from the future, there is a pandemic happening and schools all over the world are closing down.
I'm gonna have to pack up all my stuff and I am going to head home.
All right, we're headed out. Hopefully we'll be here sooner rather than later.
Wow, this is not a break, guys. This is a time in which we are starting to figure out what remote learning could look like.
It's not a job that easily translates to working from home. What are we going to do? How are we going to do this?
How am I going to teach social skills over the internet? Some of my students don't have internet.
We're all overwhelmed right now. We're all working from home.
Welcome to my makeshift teacher desk area. I'm sorry for the mess.
Multitasking in my pajamas.
I have been working on distance learning plans every waking hour.
All right, so I'm about to go in and start my first online lesson. This feels weird. I'm so nervous.
Hello, sir. I think your microphone is off.
Good morning. Week 3 of digital learning has begun. Oh snap, they could not even see today's work yet.
I know what you're going to say. It's not working. Don't give up, guys. Don't lose hope.
Then you're going to click Go Live.
Good morning, pumpkins. Today we're going to read another couple of chapters.
Here is the data.
That's 1. Let's see if we can do 10.
Welcome to band.
Guys, I'm not gonna lie, that just lifted my mood like exponentially doing something for my kids. I miss them and I miss teaching.
I've gotten a couple emails from parents and good morning, thank you for the video. She misses you too. We'll keep in contact.
I feel like it's been a positive day of quarantine life and distance learning.
I almost have 100% participation, which I really didn't think was possible.
Day 2 went much better. Day 3 went much better. And so we are doing the very best that we can.
I hope you know, teachers, that you, my beautiful friends, are enough. Whatever instructions that you're providing, whatever tools that you're giving your students, it's all enough.
That was put out by Angie Sophia, and I didn't see that during Teacher Appreciation Week, and if you did, I'm glad, but I wanted to share that with you now. So moving forward, just recognizing that some of us have been home with family and also responsible for meeting our own children's educational needs, and as well as being a teacher of your classroom. And if that is you and you've been home with littles or bigs and you've been responsible for their education and their learning, distance learning, and getting their materials and their assignments in and submitting those things, all the while also trying to teach a classroom full of your own students who you are worried about and thinking about in big ways and ways that you never had to think about before, our hats are off to you. That is an incredible ask, and it's something that none of you or any of us were fully prepared to take on. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing that. And for some of us out there, we've been home alone, and maybe you have a pet or maybe you don't, and you've been isolated and in quarantine with your computer that may or may not have been working, your internet hasn't been reliable, you're inundated with a whole bunch of asks from your administrators and or your families. And if you have not been in a place where you've been fully supported, we're also deeply grateful, very grateful for your resilience and your resolve, and just hoping that you are able to, at this point, really make some connections and to get out and to see some people that can fill you up. You recognize that you've been through a lot and the stress has been significant. And so as I prepare for this webinar, I think about that and think about everything that you've been through. My husband is an administrator of a very big middle school here on the coast of Maine. My daughter just started teaching in December and was on the job for 10 weeks and then this is her first year of educating, and became a remote teacher 10 weeks after she started her first teaching job. She'll never forget it. And there were a lot of trying days and a lot of support that she required. And so I know this personally. I've been an educator for 30 years and working with students as a speech pathologist, and I just left the classroom also in December and started with the Department of Education, a brand new job, a job that never existed anymore before. This was a new assignment appointed by the Commissioner of Education, and part of a brand new office, and I was literally there for 10 weeks and then found myself at home here in my daughter's old bedroom. So figuring it out, and a team of people that I just met, and now I'm meeting with them, through a screen, Zooms, and praying that my internet will also hold out. And so I've been right there with you, and it's been a lot. and the stress has been great. And really, there's no right or wrong way to respond to a crisis or to stress, and that each and every one of us will react or respond in the way that we will, given the supports that we have. And this is very much like our students, especially our dysregulated students and our students who come from, you know, a trauma background, that varying days and levels of support will either be there or not. And our behaviors are going to be a demonstration of our emotions and how we're able to cope and handle those emotions. You know, there's a really purposeful way for us not only to get through stressful situations, but also to emerge stronger and better and wiser and more connected to humanity. And I really think that, you know, we're in a trifold of pandemics, right? I saw this on the news the other day. We're in a global physical crisis. It's something that we've never seen in our lifetimes before. And we're also in an economic crisis. We know our family and friends and community members who are losing their businesses, and we're not able to, you know, our economy is suffering. And we also know that we have a social crisis and a social pandemic with the killing of George Floyd recently, and the uprising, rightly so, of our Black Americans who are just distraught and have had enough. And it's time for us all to be coming together and to be holding humanity at the utmost importance of what we do. And I think, you know, we just need to know as educators that it is our absolute number one job to grow good humans. And that means that we need to take this opportunity to learn and grow for ourselves, to check our own implicit biases, to now more than ever make social emotional learning and emotional intelligence more important than the academic work, because we know emotion will drive attention and our attention will drive our learning. And so we have to start paying attention on purpose to the things that are important, and that is equity and humanity for every single living, breathing human being. And so as educators, I know that we can join together and come out of this crisis and come out of this wiser and better and filled with understanding and compassion and care. How do we accomplish this? Really, you know, I think about this a lot, and from my perspective and understanding of social emotional learning and also mindful practices, it's through our understanding of resilience and grit and hope. And we get that through being good and kind to ourselves, and understanding that our resilience is a learned capacity, and it's a process of adaptation, of adapting and overcoming. And human beings are evolving like this all the time. Resilience and compassion, behaviors, thoughts, and actions, remembering like I just said, our emotions will drive the behavior, and the behavior will drive the attention. And we really need to pay attention to what we're thinking and how we're emoting that, and remembering that all emotions are okay. It's just not okay to get stuck in any one emotion that isn't serving us or humanity in any good way. So first, we need to really understand the biology of stress. You know, when I think about stress and my understanding and learning, you know, I go back to the Dr. Dan Siegel hand-brain model. You know, in order for us to think on purpose and to plan and execute and analyze, our prefrontal cortex needs to be engaged and online. And the neurochemistry that we require to support that must be, you know, what is going through our body. So we need oxytocin, and we need dopamine and serotonin and all of those good, feel-good neurochemicals to be supporting the online process of our executive functioning brain, our prefrontal cortex. But if we get a little stressed or a little overwhelmed or a little upset or a little afraid or a lot, then this part goes offline. And Dr. Dan Siegel calls it flipping your lid. The amygdala, which is represented by my thumb, sits behind the prefrontal cortex, then becomes engaged. And if there's a threat, or if a perceived threat, and if we are triggered by crisis, or if the crisis situation triggers an old trauma, then this is what will activate our amygdala And we'll go into fight, flight, freeze, or submit patterns, and there won't be anything anyone can say or do that will help us be able to tap into this. We need to be able to understand that that stress has taken over and we are in a stress system, so we are reacting rather than responding. So I'm going to play this video for us.
This episode of D News is brought to you by the Toyota Corolla. Let's lead the way. Oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. Oh my god. Oh gosh, this is the worst. Oh, I think I'm gonna throw up. Hey guys, Julia here for D News. Stress is really, really awful for your body. You know when you get scared, embarrassed, or anxious, your face flushes and you get all hot and sweaty? Well, this is called a psychogenic fever. Your body temperature actually increases when you're stressed. It's warming up the muscles in case you need to get the hell out of Dodge. Most of the short-term effects of stress are the result of this fight or flight response. The adrenal gland, which sits on top of your kidneys, releases the hormones in response to some stressor. This in turn releases glucose into your bloodstream to power you up, ready to take on a threat. It suppresses your digestion and immune system to save energy for hightailing it away from like a bear or something. But nowadays, we aren't threatened so much by bears, but school, work, and family matters stress us out just the same. All of those good things that those hormones do to save us from bears do bad things to us when we're faced with chronic stressors we can't run away from. One of the hormones, cortisol, it's called the stress hormone, and it does a lot of different things. It can affect your blood pressure, metabolism, and immune reactions like inflammation. Basically, chronic stress makes your body continually release cortisol. Normally, this hormone keeps inflammation in check, but after a while, your cells get burnt out and become less receptive to the hormone. Inflammation then kind of runs amok and causes its own host of problems. Inflammation can lead to heart disease and obesity, and is now being implicated in some mental health disorders like depression and anxiety. Inflammation can also damage your DNA. The study, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, found that stress damages your telomeres. Telomeres are often compared to that plastic tip on your shoelaces. They sit on the ends of your chromosomes to keep them from unraveling. As cells divide and DNA replicates, these telomeres shorten throughout your life, eventually leading to cell death. The erosion of telomeres is a pretty good indicator of someone's health. Smokers often have shorter telomeres than non-smokers, for example. In this study, the researchers found that displaced Indian villagers had shorter telomeres than other villagers who didn't go through this stress of relocating, which is similar to other studies on the effects of stress on telomeres. But it's not just having your entire village moved. The American Psychological Association found that Americans are most stressed about work, money, and the economy. Does this sound like you? If you're chronically stressed, there is some hope. Being socially connected helps. One study, published in the journal Social and Personality Psychology Compass in 2011, found that people who have supportive, close relationships have lower levels of systemic inflammation compared to those people who have cold, unsupportive, and conflict-ridden relationships. Some studies show that mindfulness-based practices like yoga and meditation can reduce stress. Being mindful means you accept each moment as it is without judgment. Seeing something as neither good or bad, it just is. And it's really hard to do. It definitely takes some training, but it's worth it. One study published in the Annals of Behavioral Medicine reaffirmed previous studies that mindfulness decreases distress and increases quality of life. So do some yoga, take a breath, everything is going to be a-okay. What are you most stressed about? How do you deal with it? Let us know in the comments below. And why.
Okay. So what can we do to take care of our emotional well-being and our stress? We can become actively aware of our resilience well. And right now, it's very possible that your resilience stores need to be replenished. And so it's important for us to pay attention on purpose. And like that young lady said, practicing mindfulness, yoga, anything that is somatic and really taking care of your heart, your brain, and your body is super important at this point. You have been under a great deal of stress. Right now, it is time to really take care of yourself. And when we take care of ourselves, we can take care of one another, and then we can take care of the place, right? I know that's the mantra of Warren Community School where I came from. Take care of yourself, take care of one another, and take care of this place. But it begins with taking care of us, ourselves. And so, you know, we can think about this in the metaphor of when we're flying, right? When we're flying, the flight attendants often, always will tell us that it is important for us to put our oxygen on first before we assist our children or our neighbors sitting next to us. And the reason being is that you can't be of any help to anybody unless you are breathing. And so a lot of us have been holding our breath for the past few few months and maybe not even aware of the amount of stress that your body has been under. So pay attention to that. And we're going to work on, I'm going to go through later on in this offering and the webinar, talking about exactly what mindfulness is and what types of practices help to reduce the stress. And honestly, all mindful practices help to reduce stress. So we're going to talk about 10 suggestions that the American Psychological Association suggests that help human beings build resilience through crisis. And remember that crisis can trigger trauma. It can trigger latent trauma. So if you are noticing that you're having some trauma or kind of unraveling, it will be very important for you to talk to your physician or your mental health personnel to just touch base with them and figure out whether or not this is, something that needs their attention. It's not my position to say that mindfulness and yoga is going to take care of anything that might need medical attention. So please know it's not what we're trying to indicate to all of you. So number one, understand your normal responses to crisis. All responses are normal, but what we don't do is experience crisis in the same way. So we need to stay with something called self-awareness, which is actually the first competency of social emotional learning. When we're self-aware, we are able to step away from the situation and say, how am I feeling and where is this feeling coming from? And we do this from a place of non-judgment, right? And when we get in the practice of not judging ourselves, then we can more easily not judge other people, and we can look at them through the lens of understanding and care and compassion. When we are in a place of judgment, and it's a chronic place of judgment, then we are perpetuating our own human suffering, and we're also pushing that suffering onto other human beings. So just know the physiological components of stress and the stress response in a crisis mode is, our heart beats faster, the blood pressure goes up, so our nervous system is compromised. Our muscular skeletal system, our muscles tense and become, we could get a chronic headache. Our respiratory system is impacted. Our breathing quickens. Our cardiovascular system is impacted. The heart rate increases. The endocrine system is impacted. We have signals that get sent from the glands to the body and cause the release of cortisol, norepinephrine, and adrenaline. And remember that not all stress is horrible, but chronic toxic stress is, and the body is never equipped to be able to deal with that toxic stress because you can't get back to that reset place. And this can happen for real threats or perceived threats as well. Also, our gastrointestinal systems are compromised, our eating habits change, and we might feel butterflies in our stomach, chronically. So here are the emotions and feelings that can come up for that. Fear. During this time of COVID-19, I know that I have experienced fear. You can have fear for yourself, fear for loved ones. Am I going to be okay? Am I going to get COVID? What will happen to me? What will happen to my family? What will happen to, I have elderly parents and in-laws, just being generally afraid. And it's kind of like that low hum of fear that's kind of always right there. Also, anger is a response and an emotion that many of us may have felt, thinking, why did this have to happen? I didn't have time to prepare. I'm so upset that I didn't get to go back into my classroom. We could be angry that other people are dealing with this, seemingly far better than we are. Confusion may be an emotion that has come up for you. What is my role? How am I going to get this, the learning standards met for my kids? I have no idea how to do this online learning platform. Frustration, feeling like these things are impossible. How am I going to show accountability? You could notice that you've been vacillating in and out of guilt or shame. I'm not comfortable with my online forum, so I feel guilty about that. I haven't been able to meet with my kids. I'm not getting 100% participation like some of my other colleagues are. I can't seem to manage or handle or navigate the systems. I see some of my friends thriving and I'm so embarrassed that I'm not. So these can be, some of the self-talk things that are going on in some of our minds. And grief and sorrow is really, really important. My colleague Bear Shea, who's a mental health specialist for the Department of Education on our team of Office of School and Student Supports, put out a really nice webinar about grief. And that is a real thing, that you didn't get to say goodbye to your kids. you're worried about them. We know darn well those children who are out there and, you know, mildly okay or probably more okay than some of the other students who are not well equipped, have is there, you know, they do not have the home lives that other children do. So that sorrow and grief, we think about them during summer vacation, right? But at least we have to have them for the bulk of the year. Well, these kids have been out of school for a long time, and what's happening to them, you know, not being able to say goodbye to the seniors, not being able to say goodbye to the kindergarten kids as they, you know, move off to first grade. Those relationships have been disconnected, and that's painful for people, and it's real. So recognizing that that grief can have a huge impact, and all of those systems of our body are impacted also. So number 2 is really maintaining some boundaries. And, you know, some people do a lot of, I don't know why I need a boundary. We need healthy boundaries. We need healthy boundaries for ourselves. And we need to have boundaries for our personal life as well as our professional life. And if these have slipped over the past few months, reestablish them. Take some time this summer to look at your boundaries and decide what you can and is reasonable for you and will help you stay regulated and have balance, or what is not reasonable for you. Establishing routines is super important. Remembering that routines for students gives them structure, and that's the same thing that's true for us as adults. And so, you know, thinking about your routine, especially as summertime comes, maintaining some semblance of a routine helps us to have some power and agency over situations. And as this COVID-19 continues to, you know, move through the country and through our state especially, and, you know, we're going to continue to need to be careful and to continue to quarantine, we're going to need to have some established routines. So getting up in the morning and getting yourself showered and dressed and feeding yourself, and, you know, all of the simple things, but really, really noticing, you know, on purpose, whether you're hanging around in your pajamas for days on end, it can really do a lot of damage to your mood and to, you know, just the systems that help us feel alive and well. So being intentional or mindful about our use of social media is super important. For most of us, I think we have a love-hate relationship with social media. I know that when I didn't have Facebook until my children went off to college, and then all of a sudden I needed it because I needed a way to stay connected with them. Our children are grown and living on their own, and I'm attached to my phone, but I have to be careful and mindful about how much screen time I'm spending and how much time I'm, you know, thinking about or worrying about other people and not being present in my life. Have I eaten? You know, what is the impact of the daily news that I get in the morning and at night, and how much of that can I control, and at what cost is it to my body and to my well-being? So this really begins again with that competency of self-awareness. Notice on purpose how much time you spend doing this, and notice on purpose how much time you spend behind a screen and Zoom calls or with students, and also on television. And recognize and realize that screen time and media overload can be detrimental to your well-being. Practice self-awareness on purpose. Again, self-awareness is the ability to recognize your emotions and feelings and how those emotions and feelings impact your behavior. And so when we are mindful, especially during this time, we are looking at building reflective practices, being aware of our thoughts, our feelings, our reactions, our defensive mechanisms, and our relationship dynamics. The more aware we become, the better we're better able to take care of ourselves and take care of one another. A few suggestions about this would be journaling this summer, or painting, you know, really sitting in that place of gratitude and compassion, thinking on purpose what went well today, you know, what have I learned? How am I feeling right now? Where does that feeling live in my body? Is there something that inspired me today? Or here's something that I learned about myself. And so when we practice self-awareness with the lens of compassion, empathy, forgiveness, and care for ourselves, then we are not perpetuating strife and suffering within us. And we're better able, when we're in that balanced place, we're better able to take on more than we would otherwise be if we were in that kind of doom and gloom or exhaustion place. So one of the things that we can do to practice self-awareness is really to be mindful about the attitude that we have when we get up in the morning, and also to be thinking about how tricky and difficult it is for us to get out of that state of automaticity. When we think about just rolling through our lives with just swinging our head, if the alarm goes off, we either hit snooze or we jump out of bed and we go through our day without a mindful intention of being present in any moments of the day. And I'm not saying that we can, be present for every single thing. There are some things that we have to do with a sense of urgency, but recognize that there has been an overwhelming sense of urgency on you and me and our state and our nation and the world. And so being reflective and giving yourself time to breathe. And one way to do that is really to not hop out of bed before you give yourself a second to just maybe give a little nod of gratitude that you're alive, and thinking on purpose, I get to do this day, not, it's only Wednesday, or how am I going to get through this week? It's really coming to a place of real awareness and knowing that you're awake, wiggling your toes a little bit, stretching your arms a little bit, doing a big energy yawn, and giving yourself a moment to feel yourself breathing in and out, feeling your heart beating behind your chest, letting the awareness of another day, that you get to be alive and an agent of change, and stretch yourself a little bit. And I mean that from a physical space, stretch from your head to your toes, but also stretch from a mental space. And when we do that, we allow ourselves, we give ourselves a moment to be reflectful before we get up in the morning. Then our day, we can move through our day with purpose. The same thing at the end of the day, journaling at the end of the things that went well or things that surprised you, leaving off with a nod of gratitude, whatever your spiritual sense is, or, your prayer or your intention, just giving a little nod of the gratitude for being able to be part of this day and, part of history. There's something really big that's happening globally, and the planet is not ever going to be the same, and humanity is never going to be the same, and we get to be part of that. And so thinking on purpose, I get to, instead of I have to, having that, we talk a lot about growth mindset and shifting the mindset with our kids. It begins with us too, and that begins with us being self-aware on purpose. So stay connected. Isolation is one of the biggest challenges during this crisis. And if you are a person who has had to stay home by yourself, or even if you've been in your home with, the people in your home, it's important to stay connected. So think about getting out the pen and paper and writing a letter to somebody that you haven't seen in a while, or having a phone call or a FaceTime. It's really easy to get caught up in the automaticity of doing the day and not being connected. So be intentional about that connection. Tell, read, watch stories about resilience. The number one resilient factor is hope. And there's nothing better than watching or reading a story about hope. That's what builds our resilience, is having hope. So get out some movies, get out some books, or talk to people who are, in generations above you, and have them retell stories about their resilience. It's very powerful. Again, self-care through eating healthy foods, exercising, and considering a mindful practice. If you are a person who has a mindful practice and that may have slipped a little bit, maybe make a commitment to spending some time just being well and being safe, learning about breathing on purpose, learning about an awe walk. Take a walk outside and notice that your feet are actually hitting the ground. Maybe take your shoes off and feel the grass underneath your feet. Look at the blue sky. Take a second to listen to the birds. Really, when we talk about self-care with educators, and I get it, I understand, I remember being in a classroom or being, running from classroom to classroom, trying to pick up kids to bring down to my speech room. And I would realize as I got into my car that I never even ate my lunch. Or if I'm going from one school to the next, I'm eating my lunch as fast as I can while I'm driving, maybe on the phone, doing an IEP from one school to the next. And, there just isn't any time to slow down. And, the luxury that we do have is that we're in our home, we're in our safe space. And we do have time to eat good foods. We have time to drink water when we're thirsty. We have time to go to the bathroom. We have time to breathe on purpose. And so that's one of the benefits that we have by being in a remote learning, classroom. And obviously, as your districts are winding down and things are starting to resolve, just from the work perspective for a few days or weeks, consider really getting back into that, exercising and getting some healthy foods in and practicing mindfulness. We'll go into mindfulness right now. So mindfulness is a practice of being present in the moment with curiosity and interest and really non-judgmentally. So thinking about being curious about your life and being curious about situations instead of judging, instead of things having a thought that it's either this or that or right or wrong, but you're curious about things. So being aware when you're breathing, that the heart is pumping and that the chest is rising and the belly is rising, paying attention to what comes up for you, noticing that when you do these sorts of practices like mindful breathing or mindful listening or a mindful walk, that oftentimes what will happen is the mind will wander. And that's the job of the mind. And we can become incredibly busy with a lot of people and things taking up space in our mind. We replay situations, we judge the situations, we have self-deprecative thoughts about, I should have said this, or I shouldn't have said that, or I wish I hadn't do this, and we're fearful about, judgment of other people, and that's just chaos that comes up in the mind. And again, that's trauma, and it can cause your entire body to have a reaction to this busyness. So just being still, being present, being mindful, instead of your mind being full, you're mindful to be not empty of thought, but that when you're walking, you look at trees and you say, what a beautiful tree. Or I'm hearing the crunching under my feet as my feet hit the stones or in my driveway. So you're just, and any time that the mind wanders, and by the way, the most recent brain science and brain research says that the mind of a neurotypical human being will wander 47% of the time that we're awake. 30,000 episodes in 12 hours of mind wandering memory, thought, or plan. So even in the time that I've been speaking right now, I'm sure that I've triggered a memory, or you've had a thought, like, when is she going to be done? Or I wish I didn't have to do this professional development, or whatever, or hey, I need to do this or that, or you're making a plan. I need these groceries. I need to remember to do this. And so it's not that we're multitaskers. We really can't do more than one thing equally well. Something will always suffer because we cannot have attention to this, and this with the same intentionality and the same perfection and level of success. So yes, we might be able to talk on the phone and stir a pot of water for soup, or stir the soup and also be putting stuff in the dishwasher. But as soon as we don't attend to one of those things in an intentional way, the soup is going to burn, the water will overflow, or you'll drop the phone. So thinking about slowing your body and your brain down and giving yourself a moment to be reflectful and to be on purpose is what mindfulness is about. So being present in your life on purpose. And it takes practice and so just know that your mind will wander, and that's okay. And what we do is we build an awareness to the wandering, and you say, while you're in your breathing moment, and we're going to do a body scan later on before we leave today, is that, oh, I'm thinking, or oh, I'm remembering, or oh, I'm having a thought. And without saying, oh, there I go again, I'm no good at this, I can't think, I can't even breathe for 5 minutes without having a thought or a memory or plan. Remember that that's the job of the mind. So just with maybe just a little bit of, oh, kind of like there I go again, just a little compassion. I'm thinking, I'm breathing. A body scan is a really nice first mindful activity. There are plenty of beautiful apps out there and a lot of them are free. Headspace, Smiling Mind, Calm. You can go online right now and get several, sign up for any of them. YouTube has many, many, many beautiful self-guided meditations. If you don't like the word meditation, or you don't like the word mindfulness even, think that you're practicing paying attention on purpose. That's what you want your kids to do. You want your kids to be right here, paying attention on purpose and processing. But I'm willing to bet that nobody ever in your life taught you how to pay attention on purpose. I am 52 years old and I've been all the way through grad school, and I have plenty of other opportunities to learn and grow. And not one person, aside from my mindfulness instructors, taught me how to pay attention on purpose in my 52 years. A lot of people told me, Kelly, pay attention. I need you to pay attention to this. Eyes up here. Look at me. I need you to pay attention. But nobody taught me how to listen on purpose, to see on purpose, to smell on purpose, to touch on purpose, to pay attention on purpose. Nobody ever taught me how to do that except for when I started exploring my mindfulness certification. It was very eye-opening to me. And it was very dysregulating because I was a person who spent a lot of time in that hurried, urgent place. And so coming to that place of calm and experiencing things and noticing things and appreciating things was very unsettling for me. So it's practice. I'm 10 years in, and I can tell you that I am not the same person that I used to be, and things don't cause me to unravel or to become dysregulated as much as they used to. I obviously still get dysregulated and upset, but I'm able to reset better because the neurochemistry of my body is not in that toxic place of chronic cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine thrumming through my body all the time. I'm able to go to that reset place better. So potty scan is noticing from your feet to the crown of your head, also setting with a loving kindness meditation for first yourself and then humanity at large. We practice empathy and forgiveness and compassion for ourselves, and we practice letting go and non-striving. When we're always striving for something, there's always going to be something that we need in order to feel fulfilled. And then when we get to that place, that's not enough, and then we need more. So the difference between non-striving in our wellness center is called thriving. And so we want, as human beings, we're meant to thrive and not to always be suffering. But if we're constantly striving towards something better and we're never content with the here and now, then we're always going to be in that place of perpetual suffering. So right now, I'd love to invite you, because I've been talking for a while, and well, let me see, I think Jon Kabat-Zinn might have one more thing to say about, So this is Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he is the mindfulness-based stress reduction guru, and he's going to talk about non-judging. It's important for us to hear.
Non-judging is a very important element of mindfulness practice, and in fact is part of my working definition of mindfulness, which is the awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And the non-judgmentally is the real challenge, because when you start to pay attention to what's on your mind, you very rapidly discover that we have ideas and opinions about everything, just about everything. And we're always judging things in terms of, I like that, I don't like that, I want that, I don't want that, this is good, that's bad. And it's like a steady stream of judging. So when we speak of mindfulness as being non-judgmental awareness, it doesn't mean that there won't be judgments. It means that you will be aware of how judgmental we actually are, and then not judge the judging. And when we relate to it in that kind of a way, then we begin to see that our judging is very often black and white. It's either this or that, good or bad, like, dislike, want, don't want. And we get imprisoned by that kind of view. But being non-judgmental doesn't mean that all of a sudden you get stupid and think, well, I'm not going to be judgmental, so I'll just walk out in the street in front of an oncoming truck. What difference does it make? No, it means that we will cultivate discernment This is the capacity to see what's actually unfolding, but not to judge it, but to recognize it and to understand it in relationship to our experience. So when we speak about non-judgmental awareness, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a very fine degree of discernment, of clarity, of wisdom, of understanding the interconnections between things, and at the same time, noticing the tendency to judge quite quickly, like, don't like, want, don't want, and to recognize that that actually creates a kind of veil or a filter in front of our eyes that doesn't allow us to see things as they are, but to only see them through the lenses of our own ideas and opinions and likes and dislikes, which is practically blinding to us. So this is a wonderful discipline, the cultivation of awareness of judging and the cultivation of being gently non-judgmental, or not judging the judging that we do discover in ourselves. And over days, weeks, months, and years, we can begin to actually find a way to navigate through our judging in such a way that it no longer dominates our lives in quite the same way. And we recognize when it comes up that it's actually, in some sense, toxic. And the more we challenge it, and the more we rest in discernment and in pure awareness, the more we can live life authentically in the present moment without getting caught by our own habits of mind, unhealthy, if you will, habits of mind.
Jon Kabat-Zinn has some amazing books, and I would highly recommend that you look him up. He is a masterful mindfulness practitioner, and he also has some wonderful YouTube tutorials and webinars, and he also has some wonderful papers, and he's well written and well worth your time. If you're interested, he would be the place I would recommend that you start. Okay, so whoops. Embrace the shared experiences. It's really important for us to do, to know, and it's okay for us to feel relief that we're on the other side of this school year. We may not know what's going to happen in the future, and that uncertainty can become very dysregulating for us, but it's okay to embrace the shared experience and to maybe even celebrate that you got through it. This is the last message that I have for you, is really planning for the future. It's so important for us to have some hope. You know, hope is the thing that moves us forward and gives us that measure of resilience that we need to go forward, especially when we're in a place of crisis. So I'd like to play this for you. And then the last thing would just be to do a body scan together so that you can truly feel what it feels like to have a mindful moment, if you're interested. So it's an invitation, not a have to, but a want to. But I'd like to just play this for you.
It's interesting that the things we cherish most are the same things we walk right by. They become so intertwined in the status quo that ultimately it becomes impossible to tell them apart from our day-to-day. That is, impossible until things change. Because as it turns out, that thing we call life, it has a say. There's a saying, you never really know what you have until it's gone. And sometimes it takes the most abrasive of reminders, the harshest of times, to help us recapture that perspective, to lift us up and show us what we had previously failed to see. And while our darkest moments test our strength, they push our boundaries, even transform our reality, they can also be the bridge that leads us exactly where we need to be. They remind us sometimes it's not about how we spend our time, but who we spend it with. That quiet brings clarity, and the world can spin so fast that we forget to think about our place within it. It reminds us how humanity is bigger than the sum of its parts, and it takes just as much energy to build up as it does to tear down. It reminds us that no matter where we live, what we speak, or who we pray to, we're not so different after all. It reminds us that there is so much more good in this world than evil, so much more love than hate, and so much promise for tomorrow. Someday we'll look back on this moment with the lessons we've learned, the hardships we've faced, and we will be reminded of the miracle that is the human spirit, unwavering in its resolve, unbreakable at its foundation, stronger than we could ever comprehend. See, sometimes it's hard to look around and find a reason to be optimistic, to understand or comprehend why. But what we'll find is that if we look hard enough, immersed in the uncertainty, the disruption, and in some cases, the tragedy, there's something to be gained. A tiny candle flickering in the night that will eventually grow to light our way. Because that road to tomorrow is paved with hope. There are pages unwritten, stories untold, and a new chapter to begin.
That was beautiful. I watched it a few different times, and I always have the same response of just gratitude that we get to be part of this and lean in to the suffering, lean into the discomfort, lean into the uncertainty, and not to pull away and to put up walls. So before I close this, I would love to invite anyone who would like to participate in a mindful moment, beginning with a body scan. I start this when I consulted in schools across the state, and even in my speech pathology practice, my students used to start with a mindful moment, just because it's really important not to ever assume that everybody is ready to begin the learning. And typically I do this at the beginning of webinars, but today I'm just gonna have us relax and unwind from all of this and let it sink in, and really just become more aware. So this is called mindful practice of, there's several practices that I'll be incorporating into this sit. And if mindfulness or meditation is not something you feel comfortable, embracing, you can just think of this as a practice for paying attention and being focused and being present in your life, calming your neurochemistry and allowing your body, your heart, and your brain to become congruent in a place of together instead of separate, so that this part of your brain can work. So sitting back, feeling your feet anchored on the floor, it's called grounding. In this moment, just notice your body being supported by the chair or couch or floor, wherever you've chosen to sit, and just feel the muscles and all of the parts of the body just being present. Closing your eyes if you're comfortable doing that, or keeping them open but maybe softening the gaze. Just in the first few seconds of this grounding practice, the invitation is for you to notice everything. Notice sounds you hear, things you see, things you might smell, textures or touch. Your hands are on your pants, noticing what that feels like, what the cloth feels like. Is it rough or smooth? Noticing if your arms or any part of your body is making contact with the seat. What does that feel like? Notice the temperature of the room. If your window's open, what the air feels like coming in. Just noticing, being really present, not trying to control anything. Moving now to intentional breathing. I'm going to close my eyes because when I practice mindfulness for myself or when I'm leading a group, it's more comfortable for me to close my eyes. You can keep them open or soften your gaze. The invitation is now to pay attention to your breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. As we breathe in through our nose, we notice the rise and fall of our stomach and our chest. And a mindful intention could be, may I be calm. As the in-breath comes in, we breathe in calm. And the out-breath, we let go. Remembering that the mind will wander, that's the intention and the job of the mind, and it's okay. One of the mindful practices to help with that is called anchoring. So as you notice during this breathing, this quiet breathing time, if your mind starts to wander in thought or memory, or you catch yourself making a plan, don't slip into judgment. Just be curious. And you can simply say thinking or remembering or planning. And bring yourself back by gently saying breathing or here. So for the next 30 seconds, just notice in through your nose, out through your mouth. I'll take care of the time so you don't have to. Just practice anchoring your thoughts. It's not about being absent of thought, but it's mostly about calming central nervous system, right? Being present in the moment. So I'll hold the space for us, and I'll let you know when it's time to shift our attention, practicing anchoring. The next part of the practice is to go back to your feet and feel yourself grounded in this space. Noticing how your toes touch the floor. If you're barefoot, noticing that your feet are actually making contact with the wood or whatever surface is covering your floor. Being curious about how that feels. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Simply bring your awareness from your feet to your heels and then from your ankles to your knees. And notice the body. This is called a body scan. Notice the body, if there's any place along the scan that you can soften or release, let go, tension. If there's pain and that pain is persistent and chronic, just honor the pain. Tell yourself, I feel you. I'm not going to resist. I'm leaning in, recognizing that the body is taking care of something, mending. Notice your knees and then bring your awareness to your hips. Just sitting in that core, that belly space. Let the legs become loose and long and heavy. Bring your awareness to your belly, and some people like to put their hands on their belly and notice the rise and fall of your stomach. In breath, the diaphragm expands, belly expands, and the out breath, everything contracts and goes back to reset. Breathing in, the belly expands. Breathing out, the belly contracts. Noticing what the belly is saying to you. Breathing through your nose and out through your mouth if that's comfortable. Spine is straight. Bring your awareness from your belly to your heart center. And lots of people like to put their hand over their heart. And notice on purpose the rhythm and the unique pounding of your own heart. And notice that the heart will just keep pounding until it's done. When it's done its job, but not today, right? It's still pounding. We don't even have to think about it. And only when we pay attention to it on purpose do we know that it's pounding, that we are aware. And so just giving that heart a small nod of gratitude. Thank you, heart, for keeping me alive and giving me an opportunity to live another day, to be an agent of change and to experience compassion and joy and forgiveness and even sorrow. Without joy, we would not know what sorrow feels like, and the same for without sorrow, we would never know what great joy and peace really truly is. And so just giving that nod of gratitude for all the systems that work with the heart to keep us alive. And notice again the softening of the lower body, heavy, warm. In breath through your nose, I am calm. Out breath, I release. The next part of the practice is called loving kindness, and it begins with ourselves. So often we are incredibly hard on ourselves, critical. When we're in spaces and places of crisis and trauma and fear, we can become very critical. We lose ourselves in that fear. So in this comfortable moment, in this solidarity that you're experiencing with your colleagues, thinking on purpose a loving kindness intention, may I be well, may I be safe, may I be healthy and happy, may I be free of all pain and suffering in this moment, this present moment, and may my heart be filled with great joy, much forgiveness, empathy, and compassion for myself, for the mistakes I've made, for the learning I have yet to do. Just breathing that loving kindness in for yourself, being gentle and kind and compassionate. Extending that loving kindness to people who you know and are easy to love, your family, your colleagues, your students, your neighbors, people in your community that mean something to you. Just like us, they each have that circle of connection, and all humanity stemming from within us all the way across the globe, all humans wish for the same thing, for peace and love, for equality and equity, to be noticed and seen and respected and cared for, to be understood. And so we sit here for others and say, may you be well, may you be safe, may you be healthy and happy. In this moment, may you be free of all pain and suffering, and may your lives be filled with great joy, much forgiveness, deep understanding, great empathy and compassion. When we think about building the loving kindness circles around ourselves, notice that each member of your family and the friends you care about have a circle around them. And all the circles of humanity are connected. We are part of the bigger picture. It's a ripple effect. Loving kindness begins with ourselves. So breathing that mindful intention in through your nose, out through your mouth. If you notice yourself feeling resistance, letting go, remembering the legs are heavy, travel your awareness to your shoulders, letting them drop. Arms are loose down by your side and opening your fingers like the petals of a flower. Arms are heavy and loose. Body is warm and heavy. Notice your neck and your jaw. Allow space to be between your top teeth and your bottom teeth, and soften your tongue. Notice the space around your eyes, your forehead, your eyebrows. Soften, Let go of any tension in your face. Continue to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Body is soft and warm and heavy. Feet are grounded. Spine is straight. Notice your head, space around your head. Travel your awareness just gently moving from your head all the way to your toes. And again, just anchoring your breath for the next 30 seconds, not busying your mind with the ticking of the time. I'll hold that space for you. Just gently bringing your awareness back to this physical space by wiggling your toes, arching your back, softly blinking your eyes, stretching your body. Big collective breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. 3 times in through your nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Last one, in through your nose, out through your mouth. I hope you enjoyed that mindful practice. It takes a second to get used to something like that, and you may have noticed yourself vacillating in and out, or it may not have been your thing, but I appreciate, regardless of where you are in the process, your willingness to experience this. So moving forward, the last thing I have to show you is, it's a little distorted, it looks like, but this is a thank you from the DOE, our team, just a representation of our team. Pender making is in there somewhere. I'm over here in the corner, upper left. A lot of our safety team people are there. There were actually, I think, 12 or 13 pages of humans, but this is what got what Rachel Paling was able to send me for today for the end of our slideshow. I hope that this health and wellness, this wellness and so the emotional wellness webinar offering has been useful for you. Please feel free to share it with your colleagues and other districts. May you each be well. May you each be safe and healthy and happy. Please take some time for yourselves and your families to connect and to be fully present. You've done such a good job, and don't forget to drink your water and to take care of yourselves so that we can get back to the business of doing important work in the fall, however that might look. Thank you so much for your patience and understanding as I navigate this system. And I will be here. The Department of Education is working all summer, and we're here for you. So please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the recording. Take care.